The act of pleasuring oneself has practically existed since the beginning of life on Earth. Bacteria reproducing asexually was simply the earliest form of sexual intercourse. And then as life on Earth grew and diversified, eventually our early ancestors came along and they needed to reproduce in order to keep the species alive. But naturally, they too needed some time to themselves, just as we do in our modern society. But no caveman, cavewoman, or cave them is unsusceptible to the desire of visualization. Hence why sexual acts have been portrayed in the earliest art form known to man, the rock painting. And over the centuries of our species' evolution and the development of society, we have continued to portray sexual acts in our art, or even have sexual feelings invoked by seemingly innocuous art. From the erotic paintings of the ancient Greeks to the Mona Lisa of the Italian Renaissance, we as a society have always used art to express our sexuality, romance, and beauty. All three of which go hand in hand, and to many of us, seeing such a sight invokes a craving to pleasure ourselves. Masturbation, or as the modern scholars would say, gooning. In modern times, we refer to erotic art as not safe for work and is considered pornographic material. We've even advanced so much that we're able to incorporate sexual content into animation, from the many infamous Western cartoons that have featured sexualized characters such as Fritz the Cat, Spicy City, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, to the ecchi animes like Golden Boy, Keijo, and Kill la Kill. Art is an ever-growing medium and culture, and we're at a point where it's the most accessible that it's ever been. Not only through the simple need of a pen, paper, and your imagination, but also through the many techniques and tutorials that have been shared through books, courses, and the internet to help improve your skill no matter your expertise. And naturally, with how accessible art has become, there have been millions of artworks created to portray one's wildest fantasies and shared to the world, for all of mankind to goon to, if that's the intention. There are so many talented artists nowadays with all different styles and niches that you're bound to find one that suits your preferences. And this might be a hot take, but I think some of them might be better than Leonardo da Vinci. Did da Vinci draw sexy short-haired muscular tomboys? I didn't think so. Erotic art has given way to entire industries and careers to people. There are literally people who make a living off of making innocuous characters look hot. And you know what? That's great. They've got the skills to pay the bills. In the midst of the many ways to portray sexual intercourse and sexualized characters, the internet has coined a term for this phenomenon: Rule 34. While there are some slight variations of the definition, the Rule 34 of the internet is the concept that if something exists, there is drawn pornography of it. There are virtually no bounds when it comes to this rule, as long as you have the dedication to visualize something spicy going on, even with just a simple object. Most of the time, the rule is associated with art featuring pre-existing characters and media. This is why you'll sometimes see or hear people use the term Rule 34 as an entity on its own in conjunction with some kind of media, such as Dragon Ball Z Rule 34 or Makima Rule 34. In this context, it's used as a replacement for the word pornography. And in the hopes that this video doesn't get taken down somehow, I'll be referencing all future mentions of pornographic art as Rule 34. As the interest in Rule 34 rose and became popular on image board sites like 4chan, other image board/archive sites began popping up that allowed or were solely for Rule 34 content. These sites allow anyone to upload whatever kind of Rule 34 content they have, so long as it doesn't break the moral and legal boundaries, at least supposedly. Or sometimes you'll find completely safe for work content on these sites as well.
We Saiyans have no limits. Let's charge together at full power!
Over the years, there have been millions of images, videos, and GIFs uploaded to these sites across the web, many of which feature re-uploaded artwork taken from other artists, unfortunately. But it's also part of what fueled the popularity of these sites. The internet's ease of access to gooning material gave way for people to share their treasures and build a sense of community. Whichever way you feel about the community, I'll leave up to you. As I said, there's millions of artworks that have been taken from many different places to be uploaded onto these sites. While a lot of artists rightfully don't approve of their art being uploaded onto other sites outside of where they decide to post them, it's undeniable that the existence of these sites also gave many artists massive exposure and new fans. Having a consolidated space where any and all of your favorite gooning arts are stored is really convenient, and for a lot of people, they just want to get one out and leave. At the very least, most of these sites, at least as far as I know, have ways to credit the artist or even share the direct link to the original upload. But outside of these image board sites, there are many more places where users are able to upload found artwork like forums or cloud-based file storage systems. I want to make it clear that I'm not advocating for the stealing/re-uploading of other people's works without their permission, but it does tie into the overall discussion of art theft. If you know anything about online art culture though, this isn't something that's only unique to Rule 34 art. It happens with most other kinds of art as well. And just like most other kinds of art, Rule 34 is also susceptible to tracers, edits, and selling unauthorized goods with the original artist's art plastered on virtually anything. This is all to say that Rule 34 art is no stranger to theft, and it's only been getting worse with the introduction of generative artificial intelligence. Machine learning was coined in the 1950s, and generative models have existed since the 60s when the earliest chatbots were developed. And while AI image/art generation has existed since around that time, it wasn't until the development of the Generative Adversarial Network and Variational Autoencoder, both of which are artificial neural networks that are able to take in generative models, that we started seeing the beginnings of the AI image generation that we're familiar with. In 2014, a software called Deep Dream was created that used convolutional neural networks in order to detect patterns in images and create new images based off pre-existing ones, which would result in them having a psychedelic look. In 2021, a text-to-image machine learning model called DALL-E was developed by the AI research organization OpenAI that would take a user's prompt, a description of a desired image, and generate an image based off of it. Many of you are probably more familiar with DALL-E because it basically kickstarted the movement for AI image generation. Subsequent programs such as Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and Dream Studio became popular through social media and news networks covering the now booming industry of AI image generation. The early images generated by these models were very fake and had many telltale signs of being created by artificial intelligence, such as odd body dysmorphing, not being able to generate fictional characters accurately, and highly saturated colors. A lot of people with basic internet literacy could probably distinguish these images from man-made ones. While a lot of people saw it as just a novelty that would take years to get close to real art, that unfortunately wasn't the case, as it was soon discovered that these models were being trained off of billions of images scraped from datasets on the internet, many without the consent of the corporations and users that they were stealing from. And from having so many images to train off of, generative AI rapidly improved and has gotten so good that it's getting harder to tell whether something is AI generated or not. AI Rule 34 art is no exception to this and is arguably one of the worst and most blatant cases when it comes to artwork scraping. When it comes to AI Rule 34 and AI anime art as a whole, Stable Diffusion was one of the first models that was really able to emulate the style and generate sexualized content. Stable Diffusion allows users to generate violent and sexually explicit content, something that a lot of other AI generative models at the time did not allow, such as ChatGPT by OpenAI and ImageGen by Google. And because models like Stable Diffusion allowed users to generate erotic imagery, people began to see the uploading of not safe for work AI art on Rule 34 sites and even social media platforms like Twitter. And just like all other safe for work AI art, it got better over time at a concerning rate. Here's a little goonball knowledge for you. This is a tag. It's used as a descriptor or a keyword to help describe an aspect of the content. There are tags on virtually anything like blonde hair or jeans or 6'7". Tags can also be used to identify IPs, characters, and metadata about the content. And tags can also be used to identify artists. Here is a tag of an artist with a little over 1900 posts. Pretty good, although this does include reposts, art variations, and third-party edits. Now here's a tag that filters images made in the style of that artist. Adjusting the search to only include posts with that tag plus AI generated, there are significantly more photos of AI generated images in the style of this artist than there are of the original artist's work. Okay, update on March 16th. It seems that a majority of these posts have actually now been removed, at least from this site, so this number right now is significantly lower than the last time that I was researching this, which is a good thing. So thank you, Rule 34 moderators. Although you can probably still find higher counts on other sites. The next few sentences that I'm about to say were written back when this tag still surpassed the original artist's tag, so just bear that in mind. How is that possible? The quantity of art made over 15 years worth of work by a single person has been surpassed by AI generation in just a little under 3 years. That is scary. Now imagine just how many other artists out there have had their artwork scraped by AI models without their consent, that are able to replicate their style to a scarily good degree, at least if you were to not look too deep into it. On a surface level, a lot of these pictures could easily fool people into thinking that they were made by actual artists. It's only going to continue to get harder for people to distinguish between real and artificial, and it's only going to get easier for these AI models to keep pumping out AI Rule 34 slop. Remember how I said most people are just looking to get one out and go? A lot of people probably aren't going to have art ethics at the top of their mind when they're in the mood. They just want to be served something that looks good to them or find something that suits their needs and move on. It's not necessarily the fault of those people, but the abundance of AI Rule 34 art makes it unavoidable. At the time of me writing this, there are over 2.7 million posts with some form of AI generation on one site, and that's not including images that have been mostly AI assisted or posts that haven't been correctly tagged. The total amount of posts on this site is 14.2 million. Roughly 19% of the content on this site is AI generated. I searched the AI generated tag and went to page 1000. 1,000 pages worth of not safe for work slop seems like a lot of posts that must have taken so long to generate. The upload date for the images on page 1000 is only 8 days ago. Every page on this site consists of 42 posts, and those can be images, videos, or GIFs. So if the Rule 34 found on page 1000 was only 8 days ago from the time of this footage, that means in that time frame, at least 42,000 posts containing AI generation of some sort were uploaded. Marvel and DC comic book artist Stanley Artgerm Lau is one of the biggest victims of AI art scraping. Even I can see how big of a problem it is despite not involving myself with superhero comics or media in general. Artgerm has been drawing digital art for over 30 years, and his art is some of the most beloved when it comes to superhero media. It's a shame that AI has been trained off of his work and has been generating images in his art style for years. Because this style is used so frequently in AI art, the situation has gotten so bad where people have been accusing this guy of using AI for his artwork. I've got a bit of a confession to make. Here's the scenario that I went through when I first learned about all of this. You know it's bad when the first kind of exposure you've had to this art style is through AI, and when you start cross-referencing the AI artwork and the real artwork, the association with AI makes you believe that the work is by artificial intelligence at first. But Artgerm has a stacked portfolio and is incredibly talented. One simple Google search would be able to show you that he's been drawing like this years before the AI art of the 2020s. And that's the thing with AI image generation. The art doesn't come from nowhere. It doesn't know how to make an image in a certain style by itself. It has to have been trained off of something in order to know how to produce results in a desired style. And I bring up Artgerm not only because he's one of the most infamous cases, but also because a lot of suggestive / not safe for work art has clearly been generated based off of his work. Another aspect of AI Rule 34 that's slowly been on the rise is voice generation. Voice generative AI has probably been one of the most consistent and prevalent before the AI boom in the 2020s. Text-to-speech has existed since the late 1960s, and if you've been on the internet for at least 10 years, then you've probably heard some of the more early versions of AI voices. Services like Siri or translator sites would have pretty unemotional and clunky speech intonations.
6-7.
In 2023, speech synthesis company 11 Labs released their AI voice generator, and it was far and away the best that artificial voiceover was at that point. Some of you may remember a fad that was taking over social media for a short time where people would create AI voiceovers of US Presidents Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and Barack Obama doing anything from playing video games to having arguments with each other. And naturally, the only reason that I would be bringing this up is because people also began to use 11 Labs and other newer AI voice generation models for not safe for work content. While 11 Labs does have restrictions on using its services like prohibiting the creation of material involving or sexualizing minors, prohibiting the violation of intellectual property rights, and unauthorized and deceptive sexualization of a person, that did not stop the degenerates of the gooning community from creating some of the craziest stuff I've ever heard. If you were part of the VTuber community in 2023, you might remember an incident where a handful of not safe for work AI audios were being generated using the voices of popular VTubers and having them say some really obscene dialogue. Not only are creations like this extremely degenerate, but it's arguably defamatory. VTubers are still real people, and using their voices to create and share not safe for work deepfakes that cross moral boundaries is at the very least unethical. And as a result of these audios, people started making Rule 34 art based off some of them, and even AI generated Rule 34 based off of the AI generated audios. If you goon to VTubers, don't let me stop you. In fact, some of them don't mind that there is Rule 34 art of them so long as you aren't being insistently weird and don't bring in that kind of behavior onto their streams and regular art tags. But has gooning gotten so bad that we've just foregoed common decency? We're reaching a point where AI deepfakes are becoming so easy to fall for. While those voiceovers from a couple years ago still had obvious flaws that could make it easy to identify that it was AI, what's going to happen when the AI adult industry gets their hands on better technology and training data that lets users seamlessly deepfake anyone? Another use case that I've seen for AI voice generation is for animations. I can kind of understand the scenarios where there are up-and-coming animators who don't have much of a following or the money to ask and or pay voice actors to feature in their animations. I mean, heck, even if I was the Miyazaki of Rule 34 animation, I wouldn't have the balls to ask someone to voice in my work. But you can argue that a lot of voice actors offer basic voice packs. And while the argument for AI voice generation for amateur works might hold some weight, I really hope we don't get to a point where people try to start replacing adult voice actors and actresses entirely. Not only are there people that do genuinely make a living off of moaning and grunting, but how are you gonna tell me that a robot can replicate that intimacy when it doesn't even have feelings? If you visited any adult site within the past year with or without an ad blocker, there's a good chance that you've come across an ad for an AI adult site. AI adult sites began popping up and growing in popularity around 2023. As you could imagine, the sole purpose of these sites were to allow users to create sexually explicit imagery through prompts and assist the user with making their desired fantasies. Some of these sites also have chatbot and video features that can be generated. When it comes to image generation, there are many sites that do this. Not only does the abundance of AI Rule 34 image generation sites lead to more AI adult content flooding these image board sites, but it's also led to way more scraping and theft of real artists' work. AI is one of the most prolific AI adult sites, and you used to be able to find its advertisements on pretty much any other adult site. Its main focus is to aid the user in generating an AI companion by letting them select desired characteristics. They specifically have options to let you generate an anime-style girl, which seems to use the same generic art style that almost every not-safe-for-work AI art has. The catch for this site and many others is that not only are you required to sign up in order to generate anything, but you also need to provide payment for premium services in order to get access to more generations and specific requests. Limiting the amount of free generations is a common practice among generative AI services, but it's made much more harmful to a certain demographic because of its use for sexual and romantic fantasy. These sites prey on lonely people and gooners to fork up cash to feel like they really have the partner of their dreams that will do anything for them. I found an extensive spreadsheet that lists the prices and features of a handful of AI companion sites, and people are apparently paying upwards of $12 a month to generate these characters and talk with chatbots. Just how much money do these sites make off selling these fantasies to people? They advertise that there are needy AI characters just waiting to follow your command, and that they have over 1 million AI characters for you to choose from. They really try to capitalize on their target audience and also use a lot of sexual language in their advertising to try and entice people.
Your dream girl, your rules, no limits. Pick from dozens of ready-made AI girls.
The worst part about these ads is that they can also be found on the ordinary mainstream web. YouTube is arguably one of the worst platforms when it comes to allowing AI gooner ads, despite intentional sexually gratifying content being explicitly against their community guidelines. While these ads may not include nudity, they are suggestive at the bare minimum, and many of the chatbot apps or sites that are advertised do contain sexual or suggestive roleplay and or imagery. There are countless examples of people coming across AI gooner ads on YouTube within the past 2 years or so, and YouTube continues to allow it for some reason. Sexual ads on YouTube have actually been a problem way before the AI boom, but it's only been exacerbated thanks to these AI chatbot sites that can also easily generate sexually appealing characters that probably cost them very little to make for the ad. And while we can sit here and disapprove of the sites and AI models as much as we want, the AI Rule 34 problem also stems from the users who generate images and use their services. I want to make it clear that I'm not attacking the people who use AI generation for whatever they want, but the actions of using trained data, image generating, and uploading these works are feeding into the problem. No matter if you're on an image board site or a social media platform, the images still need to be uploaded by someone. And with tons of people generating and uploading AI art onto these sites, they're adding onto the mountainous pile of AI slop that these spaces are being infested with. Pixiv is a Japanese online artist community site where anyone can sign up and post their own artwork. The site is used as a hub for primarily Eastern and anime style art, but there are many Western artists that also upload their art on it as well. In October 2022, Pixiv released a statement regarding their policy on AI-generated work, explaining that they would add settings to help users discern between AI-generated artwork and non-AI-generated artwork. As implied by their policy change, they would later go on to embrace AI artwork in the same article. This policy statement was met with a lot of criticism, and a lot of people had wished that Pixiv would ban AI completely. Of course, there were still many people that were in support of Pixiv allowing AI content, and some others being indifferent or open to compromise. Pixiv was held in high regard for being an artist haven, allowing users to find and tag their art in a convenient fashion and just having an overall positive community. Now that Pixiv would be allowing AI art, it sort of tainted that image that the site had for a lot of people. Pixiv also allows and has a huge erotic art presence. Currently, their R18 tag, which basically encompasses everything not safe for work, is sitting around 15 million posts, and about 10 million when filtering out AI art. Of course, that filter only excludes art that explicitly have an AI-generated tag, so there could very well be a couple thousand more that are undetected. There are tons of creators on not only Pixiv but also on sites like Twitter that explicitly claim themselves as AI artists or just upload AI-generated art regularly. From what I understand, there are AI models that do allow you to generate art in certain artists' styles, meaning that they have been trained off of those artists' works, and by specifically generating works in those styles, that is also a form of theft. A lot of these creators have been making money through generating not safe for work AI art and paywalling them. There was a post in 2022 on a Japanese anonymous blog site called Hatena Anonymous Diary, where someone shared that they were selling AI-generated artwork on Fanbox, which is Pixiv's artist subscription service that functions much like Patreon. This person claimed that they were earning about 22,000 yen per month solely off of selling AI-generated ties fitted onto hens. In USD today, that's about 140 a month. And considering the lack of effort required to generate these images, that's a fair amount of money. I mean, I make $0 a month, so what do I know? While the person from the post claims to have a genuine artistic background and polished up the art after, ultimately most of the work was still done by AI. And for many other people that profit off of AI art, they probably don't even bother in making adjustments to the art because it's reached a good enough/acceptable state where all they need to focus on now is quantity. The good news is that on May 10, 2023, Pixiv Fanbox made a policy change to prohibit the use of AI-generated works on their service, and even reinforced that by updating their terms of use on July 25, 2023, and stated that moving forward, content or actions prohibited by this update after the effect goes into effect will be met by a series of actions according to the standards detailed above. This shows that Pixiv is willing to support originality, at least when it comes to the money side. On Patreon, you can find creators that are uploading sets of hundreds of AI-generated images as part of a single post, and they can rapid-fire these sets too, many of which only being days apart. These people are outputting several times more amount of quote-unquote art than the average artist could dream of making over the course of a lifetime. To a lot of them, the quality of the art doesn't matter. When you have hundreds or thousands of images of a certain character, there's bound to be at least one image that you can get off to. These creators are also taking advantage of niche fetishes by generating these large sets for certain tastes. Clearly, there's a demand for these niche fetishes that can't all be tackled by humans, but AI is able to generate hundreds of images for you to get your fix. These creators are profiting off of AI models that have scraped the artwork of real artists and are uploading them tenfold. This is plagiarism in its truest form. Imagine if there were people generating hundreds of art in your own style, and people were preferring those over your own hard work. How demotivating would that feel as an artist to feel as if you don't even own your own art style? And customers are easily flocking to these people because they're able to provide serviceable art at such a large quantity. It's so easy for people to want to choose AI because in their minds, they just want a goon. Why pay a real artist that takes weeks, sometimes months for a project that they spent so much work on when you could just pay for a massive amount of mediocre art? And for people behind these Patreons and other services, their customers are paying for them to be able to generate all of this art. There are probably people that use locally run models, but more likely than not, these creators are using adult AI image generation sites or models and are able to offset the cost because they have people paying them. Now, I understand the Rule 34 hustle. If you've got the skills, then by all means go make your money. But these AI creators are slowly stepping onto an industry that has always relied on the dirty work of talented individuals. I'm sure a lot of you know that running AI is very taxing on our natural resources. AI data centers need water for cooling, and generating images and videos requires energy. Because there are so many people generating millions of not safe for work AI art, those people are also contributing to the problem, whether they realize it or not. Now, I'm not smart enough to calculate how much energy and water that an AI-generated set of 200 Rule 34 images costs, but based on how much water chatbot services not only need for a single query, but also for the whole system itself, I think it's somewhere in the ballpark of way too effing much. Not to mention that uploading these huge sets of AI images probably takes up a significant amount of storage on the server side for these sites and cloud storage sites. Not that I sympathize with these multi-billion-dollar corporations, but it's really just a lose-lose situation overall. I haven't even touched on AI Rule 34 generation. AI video generation seemed to be the one area where generative AI was lagging behind for a long time, at least in comparison to image and voice generation. If you thought Will Smith eating spaghetti was bad, early AI Rule 34 videos would definitely be around the same tier as that. But somehow AI Rule 34 videos have actually gotten to the point where they have the basic movements down, and it does look like a moving picture. It still looks really uncanny and obviously fake. But with the emergence of the Sora AI video generation model in 2025, AI videos are looking way too convincing. You may have seen some of the videos where people have done AI South Park or AI anime fights, and if I was just looking at a glance, this would look real to me, and I'm sure to a lot of you as well. Thankfully, OpenAI, who is also behind Sora, has prohibited the generation of sexual and not safe for work content as a whole on their AI model, but who's to say that AI not safe for work models won't eventually reach that standard? It seems that OpenAI is shutting down their Sora AI video model, which is a big step for the creative spaces all around. Of course, Sora isn't the only AI video generation model out there, but since I mentioned it in the script, I figured it'd be appropriate to give that update. As one AI pushes the technical boundary, everyone else will also slowly get better, even if not in the near future. What's disappointing too is that these videos are also being shared on hub sites, and the count is in the tens of thousands. Even though these sites have a way worse and less efficient algorithm than a site like YouTube, the use of tags will inevitably end up pushing these videos to users at some point. In fact, I went on 24th Alphabet Videos on a new private browser and found one AI video on the homepage. While one video doesn't sound like a lot, that's still one piece of AI slop being pushed to the front. And judging from the history of the big adult website conglomerate, they almost certainly do not care as long as they're getting more content and being paid from other AI advertisers. So what are we supposed to do about all this AI Rule 34 slop? The volume of product that's being generated simply can't be competed with on any scale. The sites and companies running these adult-oriented AI models don't care because they're getting paid. The creators generating AI adult content don't care because they're also getting paid. And the suckers that fall for this content are slowly getting their earnings and dignity drained and are succumbing to complacency. Sure, you can filter out the AI slop in your search, but that doesn't stop the problem of people generating it. Maybe we can push for platforms to not allow this slop, but most of the big ones don't give two jacks about it. It certainly isn't illegal to generate sexually explicit AI imagery, and given the fact that these are, for the most part, fictitious characters, what reason does any legislator have to care and jump in? Whatever happened to gooning to human-made art? Even if it wasn't sexually explicit, the beauty of art was that us humans could appreciate and have our own feelings invoked from what we consumed. The blood, sweat, tears down their legs, and emotions that were passed on from real artists to us, also that we could goon to our heart's content. No AI could ever be placed on the top of Mount Goonmore. AI didn't come up with its own characters, AI didn't come up with its own art style, and AI is most certainly not generating these materials with an ounce of love. I understand if you're not the best artist and believe you can't create the masterpieces that you see in your head, but I promise you that the pride of even attempting but failing is much more impactful than just letting some AI whip it up in 2 seconds. Do you think the artists that drew armpits or used Blender learned how to do that overnight? Of course not. Or hey, you could always commission something if you're that desperate to pay. But I also understand that that is way more costly than just doing the cheap alternative. But there's also many artists that have simple subscription plans that would match or even be cheaper than what you pay for on an AI service. It's hard to argue against the convenience of AI and convince someone to willingly choose the longer and more expensive route, so all I can really say to that is, you just have to get it. We're at a point now where a seemingly small but significant chunk of adult content on the internet is AI generated now, and that's why it's all the more important to not only be alert but to reject this slop. I understand that to a lot of people, this whole argument is completely meaningless. Gooning is gooning whether it's to genuine art or AI, and degenerate activity is degenerate. But just because it's a taboo doesn't mean that it should be left to rot and wallow in AI slop. It's already hard enough avoiding it with regular not safe for work content. So if you're going to goon to something, wouldn't you at least want to do it with some peace in mind that another person went out of their way to craft that masterpiece? Where would the not safe for work art community, adult doujinshi industry, and ties fitted onto Hen Studios be without real people? No amount of AI slop could ever match the dedication and passion that a real artist puts into their drawings. I don't know if there's a solution to the AI Rule 34 problem, as doomer and disappointing as that sounds. But what I can tell you is that if you care at all about originality, the artists that you goon to or support, or even just wanting to find a diamond in the rough, for the love of all real artists out there, please continue to goon to human-made art. Thank you. Oh yeah, if you're an AI bro and you got upset watching this video, then good. I've done my job.